Welcome to the thisABILITY Adventures podcast. I'm Andrea Anderson.
And I'm Chip Dodd from Team thisABILITY.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Doug Silk from ARDotWatch, and you are watching the Team thisABILITY Adventure Racing Race Ramble for the Adventure Racing World Championship held in Penticton, Canada. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Be here.
It's you guys look so rested and like well recovered. I mean, this is what happens when you do the race ramble like a month after the race.
Yes.
And do you guys even remember what happened? Because I know we've talked about it. I don't know if you guys have all seen. I'm going to put in a shameless plug for our new AR update that is coming out. We're going to start doing those once a month where we highlight races and teams from the United States and around the world. And we talked about you guys and this race, but now we're going to get to go into the details that everybody at home got to kind of ride along with you guys, but hear it from you firsthand of what your experiences were. None of you are virgins to the World Championship race, right? Like this is Chip, how many have you raced now?
I think that was number 4 because it was Paraguay, Ecuador, Africa, and then now Canada. Yeah. And we're
Caitlin,
definitely planning on signing up for the next one too.
And Caitlin, you were part of 3 of those or all 4?
Yep, number 3 for me.
Okay. And David, this is your second.
Second.
And Nick, this is your second, but first with thisABILITY.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, what a great way to go into the World Championship race, but to race with a team that you've raced around, but now get to go do the World Championship with.
So don't forget he did France with us. So we at this point everybody this was the only time I think we've
raced a bunch.
Yeah, we've raced a bunch. We did New Zealand together with Caitlin.
Oh, that's right.
And so so each of us have raced multiple times, but this was the first time in this team configuration. But
and this was the first time I've raced with David.
Yeah.
I believe.
Okay. And I mean, look, obviously we're missing a key component to Team thisABILITY. And not having Mama Bear Andrea there. How was that kind of being at the World Championship and not having Andrea as part of Team thisABILITY?
it was hard.
It was tough.
It was real tough.
Yeah, no. I love racing with Andrea. She's great. She brings a lot to the team. And so for her not to be there, yeah.
Well, I know it's hard for her too.
Oh, it's very hard. But luckily, she came to volunteer. I know she was on the fence about doing it because do you really want to be that embedded in all of the fun and you can't participate? But I think at the end of the day, she hung out with Paul Morris a lot of the time. She was at multiple TAs. They got to go on some hikes during the race and all of that because her ankle or leg is doing well enough so she can do almost everything, just not as fast, and she's a little bit more sore. But I think it was a big highlight for us as a team, just seeing her at TAs. That was super fun. But yeah, she was bummed to miss it. She just for everybody on the call and that's listening, do not break your ankle or your leg, especially the ankle, because they're complicated and they take a long time to fix. And you're out for a year basically. So it's a big bummer.
Well, having the World Championship race in North America this year meant that there were going to be a lot of U.S. teams present, which was awesome. But how did this race, Caitlin, I'll start with you. How did this race how was it different than other World Championships, other ARWS races that you've done before?
Yeah, so first it was cool that it was in North America. I almost felt like that was in our backyard. Different, it was hard, just like the other ones we have done. I think there was a little more strategy that came into play, and we'll talk about it, as we go through the race ramble. But the dark zones, I don't think I've been in a race where there were 3 different dark zones that you really had to consider on, if you were going to fall in them and then how you were going to, plan your race strategy around them. And then I felt like the race it just seemed kind of longer than most. Africa was pretty long, but I don't feel like there wasn't the elevation change that we really had here in British Columbia. So on top of being a long race, it was hard, right? There was a lot of elevation change, and the segments were fairly difficult. I felt like they were shorter. There was a lot more transition areas, I think, along the way. But overall, it met expectations as a world championship, just being a long, difficult race. So yeah, I mean, we'll go through it, but it was definitely unique to the other two I had done.
Well, and I know, having just come from Canada and having some of the indigenous things and doing the Raid Temiskaming race that I did up there, how did they incorporate, the area around Penticton? I mean, we all saw the opening prologue, which some people were like, "Oh, that looks dumb," and then other people were like, "That looks amazing," because like, when else are you going to shut corn in the middle of Canada? And like, the flowers were amazing. Like, it looked beautiful. How was kind of the ambiance from other races that you've done?
Yeah, so they definitely always like to focus on the culture. So we started at this farm, and kind of the opening prologue was a corn shucking, which was kind of fun. They had a demonstration of how we do it, and we were off and running. I think we did it pretty well. But then also mid race, we did participate in like a tree planting kind of thing. So that was kind of unique. So they did incorporate a lot of the indigenous type of activities, because we were going through a lot of indigenous type of land that they had gotten special permission for us. So that is one of the aspects I always enjoy about the ARWS races. You always get to learn a little bit of culture, a little bit of history, through the opening ceremonies, and then they incorporate it to the race as well.
Nick, how was it having all of the U.S. teams at a world championship race like this?
It was pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, what was different was we all rode buses to kind of the staging area, and then we had about 24 hours there before the race. And so typically you're bouncing into teams at shuttles in the airport prior to the race, at the ceremonies. But we had a lot of downtime prior to the race. And then on the course, with the dark zones, you kind of bump into the teams multiple times, which is different. Normally the course spreads out super far and you don't. So I think on the first leg, we were biking up pretty big mountains, and we were running into the rootstock team. So Mark Latanzi and some of those guys. And then, later we're running into Bones several times, as they're pretty far ahead of us. They would go out, we'd slinky up as they're at dark zones. So it's really neat to kind of be able to see other U.S. teams out on the course multiple times, and Canadian teams too. Just anytime you see teams that are speaking English, it's pretty fun in an international race.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have done world championship races in countries that don't really speak a lot of English. Yeah. How was it like to know that, hey, everybody here is going to speak English?
It's fun.
It was way easier than France. I mean, like, you go to the race brief in France and there's no English and the translation's shoddy, and you're like, they just talked for 45 minutes and they got all the information. We have no idea. So I personally was like, whew, the race briefs in English, the maps, everything was in English. Like, I felt well prepared starting this
race. If you have to find a place to eat or sleep in the middle of the night, like, you're not having to hope that somebody speaks a little bit of the language, because you guys had that at the last race, right, David?
Yeah. But the funny thing is, the best piece of intel we got on this race was from a Spanish-speaking team, because Nick and I speak Spanish. We talked to them as they were coming the other way, and they gave us some great intel that saved us time. So,
and that maybe other teams didn't get because they didn't have Spanish speakers, right?
Right.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we heard what they were saying, and anyway, that was great.
So, well, actually, Doug, as you know, because our good friends, because we see them all the time, Eastwind, we were leapfrogging with them the whole time. And so, we can't be competitive on the world stage, like, for the top 5. Like, that's not possible for a 52-year-old slow person, But you can compete with whoever you're around. And so, specifically, when Dave and Nick got intel from that other team, we were on the chase for Eastwind. But by the time we got in there to the checkpoint directly, they were coming back down because they had made a wrong turn. And so now we're side by side again. And so that specifically happened because these guys know Spanish, because we probably would have made the same error they made and watched them go past us this way going, what are they doing? Why are they going backwards? They're dumb. And then all of a sudden we find out we also made the same error.
That's funny. So the race started with the prologue and then immediately went on a bike, correct?
Yeah, very technical single track in Pemberton. So you climb up a mountain, small mountain, and then just very technical, like double black diamond like, descents, on trails. And so it was some biking spots and just riding your brakes and being very technical in some areas. I think we fell once or twice, and it was fun. And then long, flat, gradual uphill, and then a huge, I'd say 3,000 foot climb up mountain, which it was pretty hard.
Is everybody getting feedback, or is it just me?
I'm also hearing feedback. I was when Nick was talking.
Okay, just want to make sure that it wasn't just me.
I don't hear it anymore, though.
No, I don't either. So I think it's funny, first of all, that you say, like, it's a small mountain. It was just a 3,000 foot climb. Like,
the one prior to that was a small mountain.
Okay, it might just be Nick's audio.
Yeah, Nick's audio is messing up. So, if you didn't hear what he said because it was messing up, we went up a mountain and mountain bike down it. Awesome mountain bike trails. And then we're chasing rootstock at that point, hammering it on a road, then to get to a gravel road that just goes up, 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 and up until we get to the first trek section.
Okay. And that, like, so, obviously you're in a race where the competitors, right? Like, who's on rootstock, who's on bones, who's on bend, who's on no complaints. Like, all of the teams that are out there, right? And like who's racing, who's not. So when you're seeing like a rootstock, how is that making you feel, like, in that part of the race?
We were chasing them. Like, we stopped like at a checkpoint and they kept going, but we stopped to get water. So they got a little bit further ahead, but I could tell Chip was definitely trying to run them down, and we were on for dear life on the back of his tire.
Especially get on the road and we can just hammer.
Well, and it is, because, I mean, look, it's friendly competition, but it's still competition, right? Because, like, you have, all right, I know we've always talked about like what your pre-race goals and like those expectations. And, like if you're doing this interview before the race, you're probably like, look, we just want to have a good race and we want to do that. But David, you've never been shy. And I want to know up front, what was your goal? What was your big goal? What was your medium goal? And what was your, like, if everything goes off the rails, this is our last goal?
So there was kind of two goals. One was to be third place American team.
Okay.
Because I figured we're never beating Bend and we're not beating Bones, right? Like, those were just two impossibilities I don't think we're beating. But the other ones, they're good teams too, but I think we have a shot. And then I was hoping around top 20. Like, I'm like, that's my goal. Like, I want to be top 20. I keep saying it. Like, we got close. Like, we're almost there. And then my last goal was at least, because we came in 28th last time. So I was like, at least we got to beat 28th place.
Okay.
So those were my three goals. I don't know what everyone else is thinking, but that's
you're like, I didn't care about anybody else. Those were my goals. And that's just the way that it was. Well, I mean, look, this is a strong team. Everybody's experienced. Like, there's no secrets here of like how hard you're going to push, when you're going to push, like what the expectations are. There's no new teammates. You guys have all raced together in or near each other in races. So I think that you eliminated a lot of the what ifs and really going into this race could focus on, we know what we can do. And if we do that, maybe we land, higher than what we've anticipated.
This one was also a little bit different from the standpoint of with the cutoffs. And I think all teams were in the same boat. It didn't matter what you wanted going into the race. The minute you start seeing the cutoffs, you're like, guys, we have to hammer. we got to go as fast as possible. Like we need to start burning matches early. And then after we get through the cutoffs, okay, Chip, maybe we'll stop by a restaurant, have a glass of wine or whatever. But they were like, no, Chip cannot. No, Chip, you're not doing anything. You're eating 4-hour fuel and you're going to keep riding. You are not stopping. And so they kept us very focused on beating all of those cutoffs, which worked very well in our best interest. And then after we did that, then we could like back it down a little bit because I think we may have been going at an unsustainable pace long term. But okay, so when you go into a 24-hour race, you can be guns blazing and take down all the teams. I mean, anytime in any of these really big races that are international on 7 days, 9 days, whatever, making sure the team stays safe, I think becomes one of the biggest factors because like our sleep strategy, for example, we spent a lot of time on sleep because falling off a bike going down one of these big hills or tripping and falling when you're up in the alpine, this is a life or death scenario in rescue is 24 to 48 hours out if you're lucky. So in my mind, it was kind of like we want to get through this, but we need to keep the team safe. Like we need to be durable, and this is a race of attrition. So it's like as much as we needed to hammer, it was like the minute we can kind of back it down and get everybody healthy and fed and hydrated and well slept again, that's what's going to get us consistently to the finish line in a decent place.
Well, and Caitlin, you talked about strategy in this race specifically, where there was a dark zone really early for a race of this length. And what was that first dark zone?
Yeah, I think the first one there was so there was a construction dark zone. I think that was the first one where they were doing construction, and this is more of a recent thing, but they're doing construction on a certain road, and they had like a 10 a.m. to like 10:15, I think, push, and then nobody could go until after like 3 or 4 o'clock. So there was a potential if you missed the 10:15, you could be like sitting there for 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
So thankfully, we hit all the dark zones just right. I think we were pushing, and the dark zones were in the back of our mind. But we were able to push, at the pace we needed to not have the dark zones affect us, which was good because there were several teams where it was the exact opposite, where they hit one dark zone and then they had hit like another dark zone, right? So they were affected. They could have potentially been affected 2 or even 3 times by the dark zones. And that can make or break your race, right? As soon as you hit a dark zone, that's 4 or 5 hours that you're now behind, you may never catch up to those teams that hit that dark zone. So like Chip was saying, maybe you push to make sure you hit the dark zone or the cutoff. And then after that you can relax some. So we did pretty good at making sure that we weren't stopping for a restaurant, because the thing is you could look at your watch and be like, oh yeah, we have time. But you never know if you're going to have a future mechanical, right? Like what if we get out of the restaurant after an hour and a half and now we have a mechanical for whatever reason. And now we've just hit a dark zone, right?
Or a hotel room.
Yeah. Or hotel. Yeah.
We had that discussion.
First TA we rolled into, Chip wanted a hotel, and we were adamant we were not doing a hotel this early in the race. And there was like a gym right there we could have stayed at. So we had to pull Chip off that. I think we were glad that we did.
Yeah.
I think three of us were going to murder somebody, I think.
Yeah, at the time Chip wasn't very happy about it. There's a hotel like across the street, but then you're staying at a hotel, that's an automatic like 2 hours. You're staying more at that TA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we were able to push through so that we didn't hit any dark zones, and then so I thought that was pretty good as far as working as a team to come to the same kind of conclusions.
Yeah, and it's funny because like when we were watching at home, obviously the first dark zone impacted several teams. Like I think only like 14 or 15 teams made it through that first dark zone without being stopped at all. So it was interesting to watch and to have it that early. There were teams that obviously pushed maybe a little bit harder than they wanted to. It sounds like you guys did as well, knowing that maybe you could take rest a little bit later. Because normally dark zones aren't until like the fourth or fifth day and you're like, hey, we have to get to this or we're not gonna, they might short course us or things. This wasn't a case of being short course, but it was a case in at least the second dark zone where it could have affected you for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Because on that paddle, like if you didn't get onto the paddle, you were done. I mean, you had to stay there all night. And I think they did a little bit to get some teams some stopping places along the river. So if you would have started and you could get to this place, like you could continue. But yeah, those two big strategies early on really made or broke some of these teams. But you guys always seem to be, at least from a dot watching perspective, in the right places. And did it feel that way to you guys?
Yes. I mean, we definitely pushed hard in the beginning, and we knew we had to make the river dark zone. That's the one we were really concerned about, the 12-hour one. And we kept saying, if we push that, then the race is set after that. Like that's what we need to do. So we have to push hard for that. So that's what we were always focused on. And in the beginning, like we did good to get to that river. I mean, we can talk about how we got there, but we had to push through some stuff. It wasn't easy. That's for sure. We worked hard to get there, had some strategy, but we did, and then it paid off in the end for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's it definitely showed from our perspective. Early on in the race, like I know you're super focused on those things in particular and like hitting those zones, but like how was like that first climb where you went up the mountain? Initially, they had a point way up on the very top of the mountain, and I think they decided to remove it later because it was on the tracker. And then was that something they removed in the race, like when you guys got there?
It was before the race started. They told us that one point was no longer on the map. But that trek, so coming up to that on the bike was where I died, and Nick pushed my bike, and Chip took my bag, and like I had gone too fast, I don't know, not enough calories, whatever it was, I died. But we got to those lakes. I took like 10 minutes, and then we all just like attacked that trek. And I think that was one of my favorite parts of the whole race, was that beautiful trek. It was so pretty up there. And I think Caitlin came up with the strategy to go backwards. Like everyone else was going one way, and we decided to go backwards. So it was super cool. We got to see all the top teams as they were coming past us, and we were going the other way. And some of them were like, "Oh yeah, that they were like, it's good you went that way. It's better you're going reverse." And so that was pretty exciting. So we were in really good spirits then. Everyone was feeling good, and it was the most beautiful part. And we did it all in the day. That was my favorite part, I think.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because it was something that I actually highlighted on, I think my dot watching was the fact that you guys went a different way than most of the other teams. And do you think that gave you like a benefit by going that way?
Yes. I mean, it's hard to say because we didn't go the other way, but
Yeah.
I think navigation was a little bit easier going the way we went. And I think that we did that pretty quickly with less energy than some of the other people who went the other way.
Right. Well, and it's so while we're talking, I'm actually going to pull it up and I'm going to show you kind of what that looked like. I don't know if you've gone back to look at the tracker and the thing. So let me share my screen here. Let's see if I can share. Because it's really cool. Sorry, I'm just trying to make it happen.
Yeah, while you pulled it up, like I said, we met all the teams, but even like the team that was in first place at the time was coming down as we were going up. It was France, Team 400, and they're like giving us high fives as they go by.
That's super cool.
It was a pretty cool moment, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not many times that you get to see the top
right
in the race.
Yeah.
At a race like this. I'm going to back it up just a little bit here.
And to be like 8 hours in.
Yeah, we're 8 hours into the race, and they've already cleared the trek section, and we're starting it. It was like, wow, they're going fast.
You're like, wow, that's not humbling or anything.
Oh, yeah.
So I only have the U.S. teams on here right now, so you can kind of see where people were going into this. But Bones was up ahead of you. They went that the other way, so
Yeah,
you
we
guys
met
got to
them.
see them as you were going up. But I really think here's where you got the big time advantage, because look how much faster you're getting down than the other teams.
Wow.
And so that really put you ahead of No Complaints and Rootstock and all those teams going into that section. So I don't know whose idea that was to go that way.
Caitlin.
So good call, Caitlin.
Yeah, so Nick, so I don't know how we got in the conversation, but I think Nick was nabbing, and he had originally planned to go in numerical order. That's just how you default to, right? And I don't know. I think I made a comment about, well, I asked him, I said, is this a circle? And he said, yeah, like this is a circle. We're going to go around this way. And I said, well, is there any advantage to going around the opposite direction? And then that's when Nick actually looked at it and was like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I think that would be better. So that was kind of just a good conversation that ended up, being a positive for us. And it was fun to see the teams too. So we were passing them, going the opposite direction.
And also bear in mind, we got this map when we got there. So there was no pre-plan the day before or anything like that. It was on the fly as we're walking.
Good point.
So
yeah.
I
So
mean,
we're in a hurry, right? So you're like, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, in a race like this, getting an hour or more, like that's a big advantage. And I think you were at least able to gain like 30 or 45 minutes on the next closest team by that decision. And, that ended up playing out in your favor, as the race continued. So you guys finish that, you get back on the bike and you're like, crap, we have to push because we have to get to the paddle section.
Yep.
Because that's where the first dark, was that the first dark?
No, it was.
Oh, sorry. It was.
Yeah. So is my audio decent?
Yes, it's much better now.
Okay. So we went from there. We had to bike kind of maybe 5-6 hours, hop on a long paddle with a trek in the middle.
Oh, that's right.
To another paddle. And the dark zone was that construction one that Caitlin was talking about. So it was really pretty much the entire race was aiming to push as hard as they can and see where they end up in relation to that dark zone.
Yeah, and that was like the first 24 hours. But that little trek in between the paddle, I heard was not fun.
Well, this was just on the lake. So you went one lake, a tiny up and over to another lake.
He calls it tiny. It was like 12 kilometers.
No,
it was not fun.
It was like
look like whenever you see a map do this coming back down, I'm just did you guys decide to deflate or were you carrying your pack rafts?
I think every team deflated is my guess.
Not Safat. Safat didn't deflate.
Really?
Wow.
Could have been the difference.
No.
And Estonia didn't deflate.
Wow.
I mean, I'm
how many hours
doing those switchbacks. I mean, 14 days. It's got to take a few hours, right? I mean, like I can do the playback and kind of see, like as we're talking, like what some of those teams, like how long it took them just from the.
It took us about 2.5 hours, I think, to walk up and down, not including transition, just movement time. I'm pretty
Nick,
sure.
You realize that 2.5 hours is not a short little up and over.
On a 9-day race, that is.
I mean, yes. But like most people at home
Like-
are not thinking that's a short up and over.
Well, true.
With 3,000 foot of elevation gain.
Yeah, it was.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And the one lake was much lower than the other. So we think we get to the top and like, oh, we're good to go. No. It's double the distance down because the one lake is feeding a hydroelectric dam at the other lake. And so that threw me off. I thought it was just two lakes, same at level. You get to the top, you're like, oh, this is a piece of cake. You're like, no, it's not a piece of cake.
Yeah, like I'm watching right now as Ben goes through it, and it took them 3 hours to go up and over.
Okay.
It
definitely took us more than 2.5 then.
Yeah, I'm waiting for your dot to catch up.
So jealous. But
I was thinking it was more like 5 or 6. I thought we were planning on a big thing, and so that's why we deflated. What's the extra 10 minutes deflate, and then now you're just hiking with everything on your back. Your arms aren't getting all wonky. You're not non-symmetrical. Like
Yeah.
you have one thing on one side, and if it gets windy at the top, and all of a sudden the rafts are trying to blow around. I don't know. Again, you know, we're not in a competition with Safat or Estonia or Bend Racing, so.
But it was the cool thing though on that part is where we first got contact with Eastwind.
Okay. Well,
That
so
was
I just watched it. It took you guys 3 hours. So Nick wasn't super far off, but it also is not a quick up and over.
It took us about. I remember it took us an hour 15 to go up to the peak. I remember that, and then down, we hit the construction site, and we did walk the down rather than run the down.
Well, and that down didn't, I mean, like, I'm going to pull it up just so everybody at home can kind of see what we're talking about here. Like, that does not look fun.
No, the concern, I believe Chip and David wanted to run, and Caitlin and I did not. And the debate was speed, but Caitlin and I were worried about, well, we have like 50, 60 pounds of gear. Our knees are going to be mush after. The counter is like, well, you're on a boat for a long time after, and then a bike. So it's kind of like, I think the top teams run and the mid and backpack teams don't, is I think what that is. What do you guys?
I think going down that long while you're trying to run and carry the extra weight of the pack rafts, that adds so much more. Cause I mean, at Endless this year, I think we carried it like a mile, but you guys went a lot longer than that. And I was like, I don't want to keep walking with this thing. Like, this sucks. So you guys were doing that going up and over a short, little up and over, Nick.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. Who carried the pack rafts?
I mean,
Nick
I
and
had
Chip.
one.
Nick and Chip did.
Yeah, and then but we spread the gear all around.
I know, but that kind of, if Nick was not the one carrying the pack raft, then it probably did feel like a short up and over.
Yeah.
But since he did, okay,
Fair.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I just gave Chip all my stuff and then just chilled, ate snacks.
So you guys then finish out that the paddle in the lake, the lower lake section, and then get back on your bikes.
Well, that section was wild, David. It was the water was warm from the hydroelectric dam, which was weird. And then the waves, it was like a tailwind that was, I don't know, 20 miles an hour or something. Like there were big, we were essentially like trying to paddle, and we were also kind of like surfing the waves in. And at one point we were trying to tow because we were struggling on the first thing. And so it was like, and then we stopped the tow because it was too wild, but it was a fun paddle.
It was a fun paddle. And going back to what Caitlin said, the cultural aspect of this, I thought it was really cool. There's like a lady on the beach that was like prayer, like singing like a song and has this like drum and like sending us off into this crazy wavy lake.
That's cool.
And wishing us well. This is not part of the race. I think this was just one of the locals that knew that we were about to go, try to die in the middle of their lake in the middle of a windstorm, and was making sure that we had the spirits on our side.
That's awesome. So at this point in the race, like, you're holding a solid third place American team. And did you know that at the time?
We knew we were stuck, and then when we got into transition, yes, because we were able to look at the check-in sheet. I did. I peeped the check-in sheet, and I realized that we were third place American team, and we're pretty stoked about that. But we needed to get some sleep, so we got some sleep down there pretty quickly. Good sleep. That was a great sleep. Maybe the second best sleep of the race, besides the toilet.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I mean, what around what time did you guys get in there? Because it was
right about sunset, I think.
Okay, so you're like 36 hours, 34, 35 hours into the race.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right.
All right, and that was your first sleep. And how long did you guys sleep there?
3
hours.
Yeah, I think it was 3. Sounds right.
Okay.
And Chip kind of had dialed in through the race what our average was. Chip, do you kind of want to explain
Yeah.
that? I think that's pretty critical
Yeah.
to the sleep strategy overall.
Yeah, it was something that we did that was new, and I recommend everybody at least try it unless you've got a better option. And we're open to better options if anybody has it. So you start off with the minute you wake up, not the race start, but when the minute you wake up before the race, that's really when the clock starts. And then if you had 8 hours of sleep leading up to the wake up time, then you're starting at zero. In our situation, we're in this wonky tent, out in the middle of a field with a whole bunch of other people snoring and doing stuff. So, and with four people in a tent, you're kind of crammed in there and it's not comfortable. And Nick refused to cuddle with me, and not just the.
That
And
is
so,
not the Nick that I know.
Algie, you know Nick too well. But either way, so we had to start our clock -4 because we estimated we had about 4 hours. And so then as we progressed through the race, I tried to keep us, my goal was like I would want like 2.75 on average, but minimum 2.5. And so we kind of kept the timer going and kept doing the math on where are we on our average number of sleep, um, per day, basically, per 24-hour period. And so I tried to keep that in my head, and that really gave us, when we came into a TA, we pretty much knew like we need to top off. We're way below. We're at 1.75. We need to get back up into the twos, so we need to sleep 4 hours or whatever. And I thought it worked brilliantly. It really kept us on track. So it's not like each night we're going to sleep this. It was like we knew at every moment during the race we would do the math and know this is what our average is, and we're falling behind. We need to sleep sooner than later. We're going to go off the rails. And we pretty much stuck with that all the way till the end. And then I started getting competitive and started wanting to break all the rules. But it
And
worked
then,
really well.
yeah, and then another piece, Chip, was I believe in the math that night where we got rained on because, David wanted to sleep under the pine trees.
Is that right?
Not throwing anybody under the bus or anything.
No, that was me doing that, not David. So we slept for 5 hours, but the sleep was really, really shitty. And so I think, didn't we adjust the number to 3 or something like
Yeah, I
that
think it was
for
either
the
2 or
math?
3. Yep.
Yeah, so we adjusted the actual hours because the quality was terrible. And that was where we kind of realized like, sleep quality is important as well.
Well, and I think this is maybe some for a future like master class on planning a multi-day race and sleep strategy, because I know that's something that everybody struggles with when you move up to a race where you have to prioritize sleep. And it's not like what you were just saying. It's not just sleep time, it's quality of sleep, because I've had some of the best 10-minute naps I've ever had in my life that were refreshing and amazing or whatever. And then I've slept for 90 minutes in a shivering, bivy bag with rain and cold and felt like I'd never even slept. So, quality and quantity are important. So we'll have to have a future master class on that strategy, because it sounds like it worked for you guys.
Yep.
And good for you guys keeping Chip honest in the end, when he wanted to break the rules.
We compromised.
The compromise, yeah, that's it. The compromise was they overruled you.
They had a number and I had a number, and we met in the middle, and then we ended up having to stop and gave them back their number. And so at the end of the day, they got the amount of hours they wanted. And but yeah, they were right. I was wrong. I was trying though. I was like, with enough caffeine, we can make it.
So you
There's
guys,
not enough caffeine in the world right? In the middle of the night on that KVR trail.
on day 8. Yeah, right.
so you guys get through that bike, and then it's the first really like long trekking section that was really linear. Um, what was that like, Caitlin?
Which section was this? Wasn't the hellacious bushwhack, was it?
No, it's the first long trek. After
It's the
we
first
get that
long
bike,
trek to the paddle.
the boat, fighting the dark zone.
Yeah, the dark zone.
Oh, okay. Yes, I do remember that. We did pretty well on that one. Was that the one I was falling off the rails like at the end of that night? I think, yeah. Okay, so we were actually moving really fast. And then we had a section where we kind of didn't know where we were. We were on a road, kind of didn't know. So I think we spent some time trying to figure out where we were. I think, and that was really the only time in the race that we thought we might have been lost. But we were able to figure it out. And then as it started to get dark, started to get a little bit cold, it started to get the nav started to get a little bit more tough. And Nick and David were kind of tag teaming the nav, but then at that night, Chip took over. And Chip took over and he just went. Like, it was great. He was like, okay, guys, because we were kind of struggling a little bit at that point. And Chip was like, okay, I'm going to get the maps and y'all are just going to follow me. And he was completely on point. And at that point in time, I was kind of going off the rails. It was starting to get late. It was cold and like I was barely keeping it together. But Chip did a phenomenal job just getting us through the rest of that trek. And then we ended up rolling into the TA pretty late. And we were ready to sleep when we got there.
It wasn't a TA, it was just a checkpoint.
It was the checkpoint, and then we had to do the special task. So we were like, we're going to stop at this checkpoint, sleep for a couple hours before we do the task. But yeah, I think overall we did pretty well. I was glad Chip took over the nav that night, and then we could just kind of like just follow him, and then I could just kind of focus on one foot in front of another until we were able to stop and sleep.
And we did make a strategic decision not to do a bushwhack there. We went an extra, maybe it was 10 kilometers to avoid the bushwhack. But in the end, because we didn't have to then go back up the mountain and then back down the mountain, I think it came out in a wash. And for our state, I think it was the right choice. We might have been
slow. But bushwhacking, remember, it was raining and everything was wet. We're freezing cold. And so, I think bushwhacking would have slowed us way down. Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting here, right? Like we're going back and we're talking about like where you guys were, and I'm playing through this because this was a strategic area in the race, and a point kind of contention for some of the racers because this checkpoint here, 26, the rules said that you had to bushwhack from 26 down to 27 if you went this way. And some of the top teams did that, but one of the teams actually went here and took the road down, and there were actually questions at home of whether or not people were going to get penalized for doing that because it said you could not go along the road except for right as you were crossing over. I think that's where they had like a food truck.
But this is easy to explain, and we got all this on the GoPro if you guys want to watch our videos.
Yeah.
Because we knew there was that rule. But
here's a plug to go watch your videos. Yeah.
Yes. A little plug. Yeah. It's a Disability Racing on YouTube.
That's right.
But along the road, there was a field. And so we stayed in the field, and there was a barbed wire fence between us and the ditch, and then between the ditch and the road. And so we stayed along this service trail there to service the fence. So we were probably 20 or 30 meters from the highway, and we videoed it and everything going, we are not on the road. We're not near the road. A car can't hit us because we're up on a hill and there's a ditch between us. I mean, a ditch meaning like a 10-foot ditch.
Yeah.
So we felt confident that we officially are off the highway. And yes, we walked along the highway, but we were well off the highway to the point where we were bushwhacking on a trail on the opposite side of this barbed wire fence. And then we waited until we saw the signs where they told us. And then so I think that's why there could have been questions from a dot watching standpoint, because you're not looking at it at that. Yeah. The line looks like we're right on the road, but I can't imagine any team would have left the field, crossed the ditch, jumped the fence, and went on the road. That would have been bad. And it's like a highway. Like you wouldn't want to be on the road because it's not safe at night.
And I don't think that the issues were with you guys. The issues were with the teams that went like Bones did, where they went 29, then they came up and went down to 26, and then they went back to the road and came down. And like the road says, the rules said from 26 to 27, if that's the way that you were going, you had to bushwhack. But you guys did it opposite. And I want to just point out here, look at the difference, the time difference of when, and this is probably when Bones takes a rest at this place. But you guys are way down here below checkpoint 23 when they're all the way up here at 24. And then you guys come down, get checkpoint 26 and get up to 29 before they've even left that area. And so that had to feel good for you guys to see them, knowing that you've already gotten 2 checkpoints that they probably needed to go get. And that now you're moving ahead of them. So did you guys know that at the time?
I don't remember seeing them. They probably were sleeping.
Yeah, no, I don't.
We didn't see him.
Oh,
Because we slept there as well. This is
we
where I
also
think
slept
I had a
there.
3-hour sleep or something like that. Because we got there was a restaurant there, and we kind of slept on the back deck of the restaurant out of the rain.
so see, they missed that turn initially and had to go back and get it. And
Yeah.
now they're going
Oh.
up to 26.
Look at that. We are right on them.
Yeah.
That's right. Because when we got to the paddle, they were putting in right as we were getting there.
Yeah,
So
they were.
Yeah,
They were putting in.
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We saw them putting in as we got to the paddle. Like I knew we had caught up to them.
And then we
Yeah.
stopped because we were at we ate $50 worth of food at a truck stop or whatever.
I heard that truck, the food truck, sold more in that couple days that they were out there for racers than they did in the entire year.
Yeah, that's a different truck stop, but yeah,
That's a good one, but are you
Oh, that's
serious?
the other one. Okay.
They did a
No, but
whole
that one, that was
first in
just like
one
a
day?
normal. That was just like a normal gas station, and we went in there. I was like, I
Yeah.
want 5 of these and 5 of those and 5 of those, and we just sat there and gorged
Yeah,
on
we
like
were-
3,000 calories.
Well, and so you guys hit the dark zone in the correct time where you were able to just roll with it and get going and you didn't stop. How was that paddle?
Oh, so good. You have to watch the video. Like
Best
if you
ever.
don't watch anything else, go watch the rafting section of our video, man.
It was amazing.
It was, yeah. I don't know about you guys. I don't know. That was the most fun I've ever been on a pack raft in a river. I mean, it
I
felt
think-
safe, but it was big water.
That was
Yeah.
the difference, right? It felt safe, but it was super fun with super big waves. Like usually you can't have both, right? Usually if you got super big waves,
You're dumping. Yeah.
you're like scared for your life that you're going to hit a rock and flip or whatever it was. But it felt super safe because there wasn't, there wasn't rocks. There wasn't the rocks. It was just big waves. And it was just one after another, after another, after another. And yeah, I mean, we had a blast on that paddle. It was a highlight of the race.
That's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
amazing.
So when you guys got off there, it's another bike section just to what would have been another dark zone, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
But would have been. And
Would-
they were carrying the pack rafts on the bike.
I
And
say
with their
would
pack.
have been. Yeah.
This is hard. Remember, you were saying, "Oh, it's hard to carry a pack raft up a 3,000-foot mountain and back down." Now you're going to be on really hard mountains with your bike and the pack raft stuff. Yeah,
And
No-
some
no
places
stress.
the trail is washed out and there's a tree across, and you're just like carrying your bike and your backpack with the pack raft over this tree and across this little stream. It was it was a lot in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot. It was just up and down, and it was just like big ups and big downs, and it was just that was probably the worst leg of the whole race, I think.
Really? I mean,
Yeah,
'cause it looks
I did
it's
not like there
along
was
the river.
zero fun on that leg.
Well, it looked like it was just like along the river, but like uneventful, but you guys are saying completely opposite of that. And that's what differentiates us sitting at home as dot watchers and have no clue what it's actually like out there. We're going to get into that on that next Trek section where some people at home were talking about how, oh, this is just easy navigation and stuff. And you guys are like, this is the hardest bushwhacking I've ever done in my life. So like it,
Well,
but
the difference is, this was not single track. This was not designed for mountain biking. This was either hiking or mobiles or four-wheelers or whatever. So the inclines and the declines were more than you would see on a normal single track. and we're weighted down with these huge, pack rafts and all of our gear and the food and all the stuff. And so it's one of those where, like, if you're a really strong biker, you could granny gear up it. But I would imagine 90% of the teams had to walk their bikes up many, many, many of these uphills. And,
Well,
and
yeah, I
it's
mean,
like rocky. It's gravelly. It's baby heads. It's even the downhills. You had to be kind of careful. And there's like Dave said, there's a lot of washed out stuff. So you can't just come blast around a corner and send it because it might be a drop off. Um, so that's why it was a little slower. It's mostly the weight, but also at this point we're pretty deep into the race. We're sore and we're carrying the largest load of the entire race. So it was like one of them. By the end of this, we needed sleep bad. We needed to recover. We needed our legs to recover. We had put out a lot of physical effort, and so that put us into a deficit.
Yeah, I had a tough time with this leg with the weight on the back as we were going up and down on this leg. This was tough for me.
Yeah.
well, and the timing, you guys had timed this to kind of anticipate the dark zone and that other teams were going to be hitting the dark zone. And that you were going to be able to maybe catch up on sleep and like go or and know that. So as you see here, like you've got Bones that is already down here at that TA when you guys had a significant amount of time and they're stopped. And I think we all kind of went to bed and we were like, all right, we'll see what happens in the morning. They're all going to be like equalized. Like that's what I'm thinking, and probably what you guys were thinking too. And then like I wake up, I think the next morning, and they said that they had allowed teams at this transition to do this on foot instead of like waiting. They could just go hike out and hike back. They had to take their pack rafts, but they could do that. And Bones elected to do that, where you guys had already factored in your sleep and were going to do that. And you also wanted to paddle this awesome section. And so that ends up being really the big difference between you guys and Bones, in placement wise. But I don't think you guys regret being able to paddle this, because that paddle I heard was amazing.
We didn't.
No,
walked
we didn't
this.
paddle it. We didn't end up paddling it.
Oh, you
We
did?
wanted to.
Okay.
It was very spiny and rocky.
It was low.
Yeah, it was like it looked like a
too low.
pinball machine. I mean, maybe I would say maybe a few teams paddled, but most didn't. I think Ben paddled it and East Wind, but I don't think anybody else did. And it was just it did not look fun.
No.
No, you were just going to be slamming rocks.
We had just come off an amazing paddle. Like we had just done the most amazing paddle ever. And so like we did consider it. Like the deal was we're going to go up there with our stuff, check out the river, scope it out, and decide, And so, ultimately we looked at it, it looked low, and we kind of just thought, juice not worth the squeeze there.
Yeah. But it did impact the strategy because they had let other teams go earlier.
Yeah, it did impact the strategy because now they're not dark zone where we all thought we would be staying in the same dark zone. And
they told us that. We got into TA. They told us we had the choice, but we needed sleep. We couldn't chase Bones because we know at that point we were going off the rails. We instead of a nice TA under a cover in the rain, remember it was raining.
Yeah.
We ended up sleeping for 3 or 4 hours. That our average was falling down again. This is where the average made a lot of sense. Where yes, Mary Chandler's right here. Mary's saying, "Don't go paddle that. It's crazy. We're getting ready to leave, and you want to go chase them." And it's like, guys, stop. We have to get this 4 hours, or the team's going off the rail.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think this, not just the sleep strategy, but the math behind the strategy kept us on our racing our own race instead of getting wound up with chasing people.
Well, and I think that was really smart because, you have to race your own race. Like we've talked about that on previous shows and race rambles and whatever. Like you have to race your race. And if you get into racing somebody else's race, you're going to put yourself in a situation that you're not ready for or not capable of. And knowing what your, expectations are is important. So the next section is this, the next big long trek with all of the bushwhacking and the place where Nick decides to try to avoid falling rocks. So
Well, Caitlin got hit
Yeah.
by it as well.
so
Yeah.
tell us about this section. So you guys get up to the top, and it's a ropes course like that's up at the top of this crazy.
Yeah, so kind of what happened was we left that paddle TA thing on biked for a while. In the afternoon, transitioned onto foot. Long road thing up where it's just following a bunch of roads, and David's mapping very good, or navving very well. And we get some intel about the road thingy and other stuff. But bottom line is we get to where it's going to be a 2K straight up, very steep, like, probably average, because the flat verb it was like about 47 degree to 50-degree angle slope, and thick. And so what a lot of teams did, there were two decisions teams did that were in our scenario. Some pushed through the night and went into the Alpine at night, and most of them wound up getting some kind of varying level of hypothermia. Some got treated by the race organization up there and different things. It was bad. And what we did, and I believe Mary said Bones did as well, and several teams, was we slept more. That way we could wake up while it's dark, bushwhack, and get up there at light in. And because there was an Alpine storm, you don't want to go in the Alpine at night in a storm ever. So we made a decision to sleep. I thought being under pine trees would keep us drier, and it did not. And so we didn't sleep very well. But there wasn't really much shelter out there. So we slept, and then we pushed up through the early morning and got up there at sunrise. And then on the way up, we were in this really thick vegetation that was very high angle. And there were one or two spots that were real sketchy, but overall we were more focused on bushwhacking and through thick stuff. And so we didn't really think about rockfall. Whereas if you're on a normal outcropping, you see rocks all over and you just know, okay, we're not in a row because of rockfall. Because the environment was just very different and very much bushwhacking and steep and just very different. There's vegetation all over. We didn't really think about rockfall. And so Chip triggered a boulder about the size of probably your head, Doug, and it came down, tumbling
A
down
really
real
big
fast.
boulder then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
It's a
clipped
15-pound
Caitlin's
bowling ball.
knee.
Yeah.
Yeah, it clipped Caitlin's knee and then slammed my foot. My foot was wedged on a tree and it just slammed straight on it. So,
Oh.
yeah, it was where, I don't know, I think a lot of us thought it was broken. I thought it was broken. And
Yeah.
so it swelled up. It was huge and black and blue and stuff. But essentially we were just like, fuck, we got to push. There's no choice. Like, we got to get out. So we pushed up into the Alpine as sun rose, and then went through probably like the most beautiful Alpine section I think I've ever been in. And the first Alpine section at Semaphore Lakes was beautiful as well, but this was gorgeous of Llama Peak. So you can Google Llama Peak and you'll see what we were seeing,
Yeah.
or check out the video. But it was stunningly beautiful.
No,
And it's really slowed us down too, because we had caught up to east wind. We weren't that far behind Bones, but Nick's foot going downhill was really painful. So we definitely had to go slower going down that, and that slowed us down quite a bit there.
yeah,
So
I
we were
mean,
just glad not to be being rescued. I mean, I think the whole time we're climbing this slope, it's like a class 5 boulder scramble through vegetation. It was dangerous, and we all knew if anything happens, we're going through cliff bands, so we're trying to find a route where if you fall, you ragdoll down and you just hope the vegetation stops you. But it's wet, it's rainy, it was horrible, and it was horrible for a really long time, like 4 hours. And so we're in this situation, and I don't know any of us. I mean, all of us, when you do these expeditions, you're an adventurer, so you kind of you know when you're safe and you know when you're not safe, and all of us knew at this point we are not safe. Anything happens, we're hypothermic. There's nowhere to lay down. Everything's wet. Rescue is days away. They're gonna have to use chainsaws to come get you because there's no way a helo can come in. Extraction. So I got all this crap going through my head, and then when Nick got hit, I know Caitlin, you didn't scream like a little girl. Nick screamed like he got shot with a
Felt
50
like it.
cal in the chest. And I was like, oh, this is bad. He just broke a leg or something. And this is compound fracture. Let's get a tourniquet out and go fix him. It was bad. And then luckily,
by the way, that's called an Army Ranger scream.
that was the Army. Yeah. Show me your war face. Yeah. That's not a war face. Nick's got the war face.
Meanwhile, Caitlin, Miss Air Force, is like, oh yeah, no big deal. My knee's just swollen and hurting, but She's like,
Minor
I'll let
question.
you have all the attention.
Yeah. Either way, I was really glad Nick was okay. That would have been really bad for all involved. And
Yeah.
so just these races are not, I mean, I know half time we get away with no bumps and bruises, but this time we got really lucky.
Well, I know, I mean, that Alpine section ended up, really impacting the front end of the race. And just like some of those teams that were up on the ridge, like Nick, you said that you guys made the decision not to go up there in the night
Hmm.
because one of the top teams ended up, they were up at the top and got stuck up there and couldn't figure out how to get down the Masunga. It ended up costing them fifth place in the race because they were ahead of Bend at that point and spent like 4 hours just up there going back and forth across the
Oh,
ridge before
wow.
they could figure out how to get back down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was big, potentially very consequential Alpine. I mean, we scrambled and climbed up some stuff that was pretty sketchy, like you wouldn't die, but you'd get banged up really bad. And I'm thinking the bouldery thing that Caitlin
Yeah.
took the charge on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And you got hit. So how now, knowing that you were what, like 4 or 5 days into this race, and now you've got this injury to overcome, how does that impact you mentally going into that? Because I mean, we talk a lot about the physical stuff, but we don't talk about that mentality of being able to push through, knowing that you're going to be in pain and just continuing to go. And like you just said, you thought that it was probably broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I just started running without pain again a couple days ago. So the thing was, it was like, well, we got to push before the pain sets in because the adrenaline's going. And then I don't know, maybe hour and a half later, 2 hours later, it was like I took a step and it distinctively was like shooting pain.
Mm.
So then it's just layering up on Tylenol and just pushing, and eventually your brain kind of resets a bit. But I think for the rest of the trek, and that was our last big trek, but walking was very painful the whole
Yeah.
time. So then your brain is just focused, you got to block out the pain, but it's this like load that's on your brain is just every time you have steps. So like navving or something at that point wasn't going to be really an option when you're just focused on pain and just trying to keep up essentially.
And
And
not injuring it more. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
that's the main thing is you had to move in such a way that it didn't cause more damage. Because sometimes you'd step down and your face would grow. And like if it
Hmm.
was a fracture, there is the possibility to turn a fracture into a break, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Now we're
Yeah.
back to the helo. So I think by just putting 100% focus on doing the least amount of damage and figuring out what's going on.
And we talk
Yeah.
about the friendly competition. You guys saw your friends Eastwind at the top of the thing. We saw a cool video of them up there, and I could hear
High
Chip in the
five.
background. I was like, hey, I know that. That's Chip. Um, and so like that had to be cool going back and forth with them, knowing that you were going to be competing with them for an overall position in the race. And the last leg of the race was a big, well, not the last leg, but the last major leg was the bike to get back towards Penticton. And they ended up taking a spill on the bike, like pretty bad. Where I don't know that they even thought that they were going to make it to the finish line because one of their racers was possibly concussed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that impacted the race, but that was happening behind you, or maybe they took off from the
That
T8
happened in
right
front of
ahead
us.
of you. Yeah, right ahead of you.
Yeah.
They
This is
also
where
didn't sleep though. So
yeah.
that was something we were talking about was, okay, we're at this O trek. Do we sleep? Do we not sleep? They're there. Can we push through this and that? We slept for 1 hour, and when we got up, we hit the O course, and Chip and David navved, and we nailed it perfect. And we saved a lot of time compared to a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So that's like, okay, we got some free sleep because we saved like 30, 35, 40 minutes. So we slept an hour. So we're only like lost 20 minutes. We got an hour of sleep over a lot of teams. And then when we hit that bike leg, we're doing all the technical downhill that they were doing on zero sleep and fell um, while we're fresh. So I think that sleep strategy, especially at the end, can be a big deal changer when it comes to like technical navving and also just technical dangerous stuff and being able to do it safely.
Yeah. So you guys finish that bike leg and get to what was supposed to be the last paddle section. Did you guys get to paddle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
It was
Because I
awesome.
know later in the race they made the decision to cut off that last paddle. But I know there is an awesome picture of Ben racing where they're literally, it looks like they have an outboard motor in the back of their boat because the waves are so high. How was it when you guys got on that last section?
it
Perfect
wasn't
day.
that bad. Like it was a little windy, a little wavy, but not that bad. And I know we kind of skipped the last bike, but I got to give Chip his credit because he towed all of us that like on the
He
miserable
told
trail.
me.
No, but he
I
towed
was
you, and I was behind you, and Nick
I
behind me. He was
that
like a
I was
beast on
on
that last
fire.
one.
That
that
was
last
fantastic.
night I was done. Like I was just done. Like these guys wanted to, and they all three of them could have gone straight to the O course and straight to that bike and probably finished like 6 or 7 hours earlier than what we did. But I was just done. So like we had to sleep, and then I give props to Chip and David because they just nailed that O course. We weren't even moving very fast because I was zombie walking, but they just nailed it. So we went through fast just because of the nav. But yeah, that last bike, like we were barely moving, like because I couldn't, like it was flat, but just the
Yeah.
terrain
Your
was,
body was done.
I was
Done.
done. Like I was literally, I don't know, we were barely moving like 10K an hour. Like we were barely moving on a flat surface,
Yeah,
and
it was uphill. Remember, like the first
it
like
was
3 or 4
slightly
hours
uphill.
was
I mean, I
uphill
was
slightly.
just done. And Chip had spent the entire race talking about sleep, and now we weren't going to get any sleep. I was like, what?
Yeah,
Sleep.
but
Like
yeah,
we had to stop for 30 minutes on that trail, and I think they were deathly afraid that Eastwind was going to catch us.
Yes.
They
But
were, yeah.
but
after,
that last paddle in was easy.
yeah, the last paddle in was easy, but we were just glad to get to the bike. I was glad that Chip towed me through that bike because I mean I wouldn't have made it if he didn't tow, so that was great.
Well, and I think the thing that may have saved Chip from crying the entire time through the finish line was that it looked like a really cool, like last like kilometer of trekking where you knew where the finish line was and like
Yeah.
you're already starting to celebrate instead of like you don't see it, you don't know that it's coming, and then you come around the corner, you're like, there it is, and then like the emotions come.
Yeah.
But you said you were a wreck getting off the blast paddle.
No,
Or
it was getting off the bike.
getting off.
All of us. I mean, and it was, remember, it was nighttime going to dawn, so it was freezing cold. It was spitting rain. We're having this problem. We're having to pull over and take these safety stops. I mean, we are going off the rails, and I'm like, here we are. We're finally in front of East Wind because we saw their tent, so we knew they were behind us, but I didn't know if they were 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour behind us. And it was just like, it was like, God, we just need to do it. Get past it. We can sleep when we get to the finish. But then we had to stop. And so it was stressful. It was physically hard because, like Caitlin said, we're towing. I'm trying to hammer as hard as I can. At this point, I know, just I don't care about chafing. I don't care about blisters. I don't care about soreness. I am going to go at my max capacity, and we just got to get to the paddle because once we get on that paddle, I know that we're fine because it doesn't matter how good of a team you are. You're not going to go, but so much faster, right? With 1970s canoe paddles.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if we could just get to this paddle, that's when my race ended. Because I knew once we're
Plus,
on the water, it's we're done. We can sit back and relax and we just paddle in and no problem. So the fact that we got there before East Wind, we got there safely. Nobody fell off their bike again. None of our bike falls were injury. And for me, it was like that was my finish line. Was
and Andrea was there.
transition on the bike. Andrea was there. Paul was there. I'm getting hugs. They're going, guys, you're doing so good and all of that. And I'm just a blubbering fool. I got snot hanging down a foot from my nose while I'm putting my bike away. My race was over. That was my finish line because the rest of it was just celebration the rest of the way as I tried to figure out how to paddle a stupid canoe with a canoe paddle.
So speaking of celebrating, let's talk about. I want you, the last thing that we're going to do here for everybody, I want you to each give your highlight of the race. We've talked about some really good stuff, but what was the thing that you are going to take from this race that really set it apart for you? David, I'm going to start with you.
I like that first lake section. It was so pretty, especially for me because I was just bouncing back from my low point. So often the highest is like right after your low. So I had my low really, really early in the race. I know Caitlin has hers a little bit later, but mine was really, really early. But then that bounce back after and the beautiful high alpine was it for me.
Nick, what about you?
That amazing whitewater paddle and just the second big alpine trek. I mean, those were just super fun and beautiful.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like those are places or things that you get to do very often in adventure. Like it's the stuff we always hope for. Like the photographs and stuff. If you haven't gone to the ARWS page and seen all the amazing media that was done, please go and watch it and like see it. Go watch the thisABILITY videos that they're going to post. But yeah, that's awesome. Caitlin, what about you?
I think my highlight was just overall how proud I was of the team. Of like we had a pretty solid race and we pushed. We were pushing. The sleep strategy worked. The nav was on point. I felt like we worked really well together, understanding strategy overall. So I think I was just proud of the team that we put together a pretty solid race. And you're always going to have those little mistakes, right? But I felt like we didn't have any like major mistakes that really cost us, significant placings. So I thought we had just a really good race overall as far as pushing hard and placing, 25th. So I was pretty proud of that.
Well, yeah, and I'm always watching to see if Chip is going to lead you guys out of a transition wrong, and that didn't happen.
Didn't happen
This race.
I was going to keep giving them the maps.
Chip, what about you? I mean, obviously this is your team, and you put this together. What was great about this race for you?
I mean, of course, like Caitlin said, I'm super proud of the team because this was a really hard race. I think that's the first thing. If you see my finish line and they say, hey, how was I? I was like, it was hard. I think the volatility on this one was higher than usual, meaning the highs were unbelievable highs. You're on these alpine peaks with glaciers and beautiful waterfalls, and you're like, I can't believe I'm here. Like Dave was right. I think that first trek, it was just so stunning. And we hadn't seen it yet, right? It's all new to us, and it was during the sun's going down. It's during dusk. Everything is just absolutely beautiful. But then there's also the lows. There's Nick getting his foot crushed, and there's the bushwhack from hell, and sleeping in water under the pine trees. Yeah, I mean, it was like there were so many. There was really deep lows and really high highs. Like the white water was a super big high, and so I think that was it. It's like half the reason you do this is to break yourself out of your normal day-to-day life, which is basically mundane, right? You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you watch Netflix, whatever, you go to bed, you say hi to the kids, whatever. And then here we are, we're like going, oh my God, beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. I think I'm gonna die. Oh, look at this is beautiful. I think I'm gonna die. Oh my God, I think Nick's gonna die. Okay, Nick's not dead. No, beautiful. And so I don't know. For me, it was the ups and downs. I think that's kind of what we signed up for, and I really appreciate the team and what everybody did to pull the team through all of the downs, because the ups were easy, the downs are hard.
Well, I want to just tell you guys that from a dot watching perspective, obviously you had a lot of fans and a lot of support from friends and family and fans of Team thisABILITY. And you really showed out this race. You were the third best American team, 25th overall. Yeah. So much better than I would say on a harder race course.
Yeah.
And like the competition that was there this year was second to none. Like you guys really solidified yourself as a really strong American contender. And I think, the world has noticed what we have all seen over the last few years and just the growth of this team and your ability to push through. I'm really proud of you guys because I know and love all of you guys and love just being a part of watching you and cheering for you. And you really made all of us proud. I know I talked to Andrea multiple times and she was so incredibly proud. I can't wait to see what you do in 2026. So I hope that everybody will continue to follow Team thisABILITY on all social media platforms. Go watch all their videos because they are amazing. make sure you're following AR.watch because we're going to have some more exciting things coming for you this year, including the new AR update that we're going to be putting out once a month. So we'll hope to have some more features of Team thisABILITY on that. Thank you guys so much for your time. I hope that you have a great Thanksgiving, and so does everybody else out there. And we look forward to bringing you another race ramble in the future. So thank you guys, and we'll see you at the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Doug, and thanks for all you
Thank
do
you,
with
guys.
AR.watch and keeping AR on the front burner and helping us all watch races. We appreciate
All right.
it.
We'll see you guys all on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please take a moment to leave a rating and a comment. To find additional content, including the video versions of these discussions, you can search for thisABILITY Racing on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
We hope this podcast inspired you to focus on your abilities and plan your next adventure.
See you on the trail.